All right, everybody, welcome back to Gym City Welding. Thank you for tuning in for today's very special episode with my friend, my guest, Jeff Hurt. Jeff, thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Appreciate it. We're at the Louisville Lowrider Super Show in Louisville, Kentucky, and it's shaping up to be a really, really big event. And Jeff's taking some time out of his busy schedule to meet with us so we can do a little interview and talk about Jeff and his role in the lowriding world. So, with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started right away. All right, Jeff. So, I have a couple questions for you. If you can, tell me a little bit about yourself and your role in the lowriding world.
Well, myself, I'm 46 years old. Been lowriding for most of my life, really. Actually, I'll take that back. I didn't really get started until my late teens. A lot later than a lot of these guys did. But at this point, it's been probably 30 years that I've been doing this. Basically, lowriding is what I do. I travel all over the country. I'll do 10 to 20,000 miles a year, depending on what year it is. And I try to hit every one of our regions in our club every year that I can. So we have 5 regions. And so we'll be Southern California, Northern California, Pacific Northwest. We call it the South Central, which is across Texas, East Coast, and then the Midwest. So I try to go to every one of those regions every single year that I can. So that's kind of what I do. As a career-wise, I do a lot of Toyota manufacturing. So I actually run plants, teach management, implement Toyota production system into places, things of that nature. But I consider that my hobby, and lowriding is my career.
Okay.
That kind of becomes secondary. A lot of guys don't even know I have a job. So there you guys go. I actually do have a job. So.
Well, I'm kind of jealous about that. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So are you originally from Kentucky?
I am. I grew up in Lexington, Kentucky area, a little small town called Nicholasville. Lived there until my wife graduated college.
Okay.
And then she actually got on with Toyota, and that kind of began our path around the country. So we've actually moved, when she graduated college, we moved to the Cincinnati area, lived there for about 7 years. And then since then, her career has taken us to Mississippi, Alabama, Dallas, Texas, back home to Kentucky, and now back down to Alabama again. So we've actually moved kind of all over the world, or all over the nation, I should say.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So being into the lowriding stuff and having all the years that you have and experience with lowriding, how exactly did you get into lowriding? How did lowriding find Jeff? How did that happen?
So, man, when I was a kid, most of the guys that are watching this video were like, man, I played with Hot Wheels. I would go to car shows with my dad. That's what they did since they were born, basically. Most car guys. And when I was a kid, I was a basketball player. I played sports. That's all I cared about. I was basketball dawn to dusk. That was it, man. Was that? And I used to watch guys that would read magazines on the bus. So, man, I remember one kid on the bus. He was an older kid. He had a Mustang. He was reading Mustang Monthly. It's an old magazine that you may remember. And I was like, why are you looking at a magazine about cars? Like, that's the dumbest thing in the world. And that was kind of my thought on car stuff. Like, it's so stupid. Why do you guys even care about that? And man, I can't remember exactly how old I was. I think it was 14. And that Thanksgiving was when Snoop Dogg's first CD dropped, Doggy Style. So I'm at Thanksgiving. I have a nephew that's older than me. Okay. And he's probably watching this. His name's Brian Wilhoit. Shout out to him if you guys know him. Originally from Godfather's Car Club.
Back in the day. Okay.
We had a little mini Blazer, little S10 Blazer back in the day. And his mom is my sister. And me and his little brother wanted to go to the mall to buy the Snoop Dogg CD. So his mom said, Brian, take the boys to the mall, drop them off, I'll pick them up. And he didn't want to do it because we were little kids. He was 17 years old. He probably had some party to go to. But he had his Blazer had wires on it, flake paint job, stay fast roof. It had a wall with 415s in it.
Oh my God.
And it was just a 2-seater. So I sat behind the seats, with his seat was here and the wall was here. So the 15 was beating in my face. But, it was Black Friday. So everybody was waiting in line to go into the mall. And he pulls up, stereo banging, opens the door. Me and Tommy get out. He takes off. And everybody that was outside the mall started staring as we pulled in. And as we got out, they were like, it was like we were celebrities or something. And then as he drives away, somebody hits us. He goes, "Man, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. That's the baddest truck I've ever saw." So that actual minute is when I became a car guy.
Oh
Was
wow.
that experience is what made me want to even build cars at all.
It left that much of an impact on you from that moment.
It absolutely did, man. And later on, we lived in two different towns, close to each other. And I would work at I worked at McDonald's, and I would be in the drive-through, and I would hear bass coming, and it was my nephew Brian, and he would come around the parking lot on three wheels. And so, like, to me, Brian was one of those guys I looked up to that everybody has that kind of gets them into cars. He was my guy, and so for him to come down and three wheel around our McDonald's, man, that's what got me was that.
Wow.
And so that's when I started buying Lowrider magazines, and that's when the bug bit me.
That's a hell of a story. So, like, let's see, Snoop Dogg's first album, what, 90,
94, I think.
94?
Yeah.
Wow. So, so with that having such an influential impact on you, did you have a car yet by then?
Oh, no.
So, okay, so I guess my next question would be, what was your first car, and was it a lowrider?
It wasn't. My very first car was a cheap, hey, you're 16, here's a POS. It was a 1988 Ford Escort.
Okay. Was it a GT?
No.
Oh, yeah.
So it was but it was the have it for 6 months and it's going to blow up type of car that we used to get when we were young.
Okay.
And all you new kids that are watching this, your mom goes and buys you a 2018 Accord. We didn't get that. We got a 30-year-old car.
Right.
So it was an old Escort, and I traded it in at a buy here, pay here lot. I bought a Nissan Sentra, and I took the back seat out. I put a wall up. It had 612s in it.
Damn.
And that was about 6 months after I started driving. And then my nephew Brian got rid of the Blazer. He bought a Cadillac. So I got rid of the Sentra, and I bought a Cadillac.
Okay.
It's an 84 sedan DeVille. And so that was my first pseudo lowrider because I put 15-inch bolt-on wires on it.
Okay.
But I was headed down the path before I really knew anything about it. So
okay, that's pretty incredible.
yeah.
When you had mentioned your wife, how does she feel about this whole the lifestyle, low riding in general, car building? How does she feel about that?
Very supportive. It's not necessarily her thing or passion or anything. She's not like super excited like, oh, I got to go to this car show with you. But there's no negativity there at all. She's all about it. She knows that's what I do. We started dating. Gosh, I think I was 18 or 19. Fresh out of high school is when we started dating. So we've been married. This will be 24 years coming up.
Oh, congratulations!
Oh, thank you. And to tell a story that kind of sums it all up is my wife by trade is an accountant.
Okay.
And if you know accounting, the end of the fiscal year is very busy.
Mm-hmm.
And Toyota's end of their fiscal year is October. Well, the Las Vegas Super Show was always in October.
Okay.
We got married at the Las Vegas Super Show in 2000.
No way.
So for the next 15 years, we were not together on our anniversary because that's Super Show weekend. So she had to stay home because she had end of the year accounting stuff to do. Well, I'm going to Vegas. That's what I do. Like I low ride, and that's our Super Bowl. So she came out in 2013 was the next time she came out, and that was the first time I got to take a car to Vegas.
Wow.
So there was never any complaining or gripe or anything like that. Super supportive, super awesome with it all. We kind of have this thing of who cares if we celebrate our anniversary a week later, a week early. It's not that big of a deal. They're not moving the Super Show.
Right.
So let's move our anniversary dinner. So it kind of tells you a little bit about her. Yeah, super supportive, awesome wife, like just as good as you can possibly ever hope for.
That's awesome. Well, shout out to you. That's pretty amazing. So like with the low riding thing, a natural progression, I guess, would be at some point you join a club, right?
Sure.
Eventually, over time, and you get to know guys, you get to hang out with guys, and build up a camaraderie and all those things, and join a club or form a club. Are you a member of a club?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, USO Car Club. Been a member of USO for 27, 28 years, something like that coming up. We actually joined the club before my wife and I got married.
Okay.
So the thing with USO, the way that kind of got started was I went to work at a factory, a local factory, and I had that Cadillac, but I wasn't really doing anything with it. You know, I was reading Lowrider magazines like everybody else, and just, you know, it was like a Bible for me to go get the magazines. And when I started there was 3 guys that were kind of young, about my age. You know, shout out to Billy and Bailey and Jason Johnston, and they were sitting together at lunch. And so I walked into the lunchroom and I said, "Those guys kind of look like me," so I just went and sat at their table.
Okay.
And they're, "Who is this idiot that just sat with us?" You can kind of tell. And then every break, I just came and sat with them. And so finally, I was, well, I guess he's just part of our crew now. Well, it just so happens they were the Lexington, Kentucky chapter of USO.
Oh, wow.
And Billy had started it with some other guys, with Mark Zimmerman, Seth. You know, Wally was in there. These guys that really started the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have their first shirts yet, I don't think. And so I would sit there every single lunch break and break with them. And one day a box shows up, and it was their club shirts. And so they brought them to work to pass out. And I was like, "Man, I want one of those USO shirts." And Billy says, "Well, it's USO, and come to a meeting on Saturday." And so I started going to meetings, and I had the at that point I bought an '83 Fleetwood Coupe, and that was going to be my first lowrider.
Okay.
So that was kind of how I got into the USO Car Club. Was that though? And then, you know, that, you know, 25 years later, it's still what I'm doing, man. So
That's pretty amazing. 25 years. Wow.
yeah.
That's a hell of an accomplishment. So being a member of USO Car Club for 25 years, how would you say that lowriding has impacted you in your life?
Man, the thing about lowriding, like I said earlier, is lowriding is what I do. Um, it, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of an off the wall thing, but there was an Eminem song once where somebody, he was trying to argue with somebody, like Mariah Carey or somebody, and one of his lines was, "This is what I do," and like, the whole thing's a diss track. That's what he does, and I kind of think that sometimes, like, this is what I do. Like, I low ride when I go to bed. The last thing I do is turn my phone on silent because of all the messages and conversations I've got going on. And as soon as I get up, the first thing I do is answer all the questions from over the night. Because, you know, people out on the West Coast are texting me at 2 a.m, and it's 11 o'clock to me, so I'm ready to go to bed. And they're, you know, or to them rather, it's 11 o'clock, and I'm already in bed. But man, almost every decision I make is based on low riding. What car I drive every day. You know, I can't go buy a Camry. I have to go buy a truck because I'm going to have to tow everywhere. You know, when we buy a house, the first thing that we look at, is we moved all around the country, is what's the garage situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't move into a house with a 16-foot garage. It's not going to work. Like, it has to be a 24-foot deep garage, or I have to have room to build another garage. Like, it all kind of revolves around that. If we move, you know, to this house, how close is it to the interstate? Because I need to be able to hop on the interstate so I can shoot the shows. I don't want to have the interstate be 2 hours away.
Wow, I never even thought about that.
So, you know, a lot, really my whole life revolves around it, man. And, you know, in any house that we move into, I have an USO room that's completely full of artifacts and you know, the type of everything, and everything that we do is all based on low riding, really. You know,
Okay.
So that's what I like to tell people, man. When people say low riding is a hobby, or they talk about the sport of low riding, like that's foreign to me. Like, it's not a hobby, it's not a sport, it's like what you do. Like, if you're a father, then that's what you do. You're the father. You know, like, if you're a welder, that becomes your identity, that you're a welder. That whatever it is that becomes your identity, well, mine is a lowrider.
Oh,
You know,
I totally understand that. That
yeah,
makes a lot of sense. Wow. Okay. You know what? Those of you at home that watch the show, I'm in the same boat when it comes to the garage, because I've outgrown my garage 3 times over. And we're looking at, like, my he's only got a couple years left to high school, and we're moving out of the city. We're moving out in the country. I've got to find a place that's got a metal building or an outdoor,
or a place for you to build one, right?
or a place to build one. Absolutely. So I totally understand that.
Yeah, that's when our real estate agents, you know, we pull up to a house, and most people are like, "Oh, the light fixtures are nice," and I'm like, "I can't get a trailer in this driveway." Like, and they're looking at me like, "What?" And yeah, but you can't park a trailer here. There's no point of us even going in because the driveway's too steep. And the real estate agents think we're kidding, and it's like, "No, move on. Like, we're not going to that house. Like, it's not possible." Like, so
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
All right. So being an USO Car Club, there's a name that I've heard for many, many years. I've been a lover and reader of Lowrider magazine since I probably 94, 95, somewhere in there. And I always heard a name, Kita.
Yep.
Can you tell me about Kita and who he was?
Man, I hope we have a long, long time on this video. That's a big can of worms to open, man. Kita was a lot of stuff to a lot of people. He's the founder of our car club, which originally was in Carson, California. There was 6 guys that they went around all the different neighborhoods, and they got together and they made USO Car Club. And this was at a time when lowriding was a lot more negative than it is now, portrayed poorly in the media, and a lot, just it wasn't always the best situation for everybody. Well, if you ever met any Samoans or you know any Samoans, Samoans are very familial. They're if I have something, we have something.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure everybody's included. When you meet a Samoan, they're probably going to hug you. They might kiss you on the cheek. That's the Samoan culture. And he wanted to bring that type of a culture into lowriding to get away from all the negativity. Okay. So when he started to grow this club and start different chapters, and the first chapter was Carson, Harbor area. The next one was down to San Diego, and then they sort of branched up and down the West Coast. And then he started to come out here to the Midwest. And the one thread that kind of connects all these people is lowriding, but it's Kita.
Okay.
That's the one. Kita had a way about himself that Kita made you feel like you were the most important person in the room at any given time. Whoever he was talking to, you felt like you were the most important person. Nobody else mattered. He wanted you to feel special. And he may come up to your car that's a car that everybody's laughing at. Mm-hmm. He's going to come find you. Like, is this your car, man? And where'd you get those wheels? Man, I really love your interior, man. It's looking nice, man. Keep it up. He was motivating. He was happy. And he was positive. And he brought that into a community that wasn't always like that. And when we, from early on, man, one of our early bylaws is hugs, not handshakes. You never see Usos handshake. You hug each other. And in our bylaws also, you don't talk bad about other people's cars. Mm. You help somebody out if they're on the side of the road. It doesn't matter what club they're in. That all stems from Kita and from his spirit and from his way of thinking. But because of that, man, everybody had a lot of love for Kita, and he was the thread that kept us all together, kept us all the same, man. A lot of people looked up to Kita. Mm-hmm. A lot of people were around for a long time with Kita. Know there was different generations of Kita. Okay. And the Kita that I met when I was younger was still, he was ready to handle his business when he needed to handle his business. Okay. And then as he got older and he grew older, he started to become more, as his kids grew up and they had kids, he became more grandfatherly. He became even more positive and even more friendly and even more loving. And the edge was gone. That was there at the beginning. And that brought so many people in, man. And Kita's the reason why our club got as big as it did. Is because he draws so many people in.
With that being said, how profound of an impact did that have on you, knowing him and seeing how he was and how he changed and progressed and ultimately became who he was? How did that affect you?
Man, for me, the thing with Kita is I come from a little different family structure than a lot of people do. I was abandoned at 18 months old and grew up without a family. Okay. My grandparents took me in, but I always kind of knew early on I was told that, so I never really quite clicked and really felt like you fit in. Okay. And a lot of people in different structures, that'll happen. When you don't really have something to grab onto, then you become really, really hardcore into whatever culture you decide to be part of, and that becomes a focus for you. And I feel like that did that for me. And USO became my family really through Billy and those guys, through Kita. And Kita became a father figure to me at a young age. Okay. Because, I was a young kid, and I think Kita saw into me what I felt about the club and how I was. And he would always be like, man, I see this in you. I need you to do that. And he would always give me assignments to do. And he would give me extra responsibilities within the club and things to do. And what I didn't know at the time was he was kind of growing me into that. Okay. And Kita was somebody that I could call and say, hey, man, I have this issue. What do you think I should do? And then he could also call me and do the same thing. Hey, man, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? And we had the relationship that I would go, I don't know if that's a great idea, man. I don't know if we should do that. And we could have those discussions, and we could, like you do with your father, like people do with their big brother, their uncle, the homies in the neighborhood, whatever. That was Kita to me. He was that person that I got to kind of do that with. Now he's in California, but I'm in Kentucky.
Oh
And
yeah.
a lot of people look at that and they go, "How did that happen?" And that, man, when you ask about Kita, that's um, the magic of Kita is he starts this club in an alley in Carson, California, and during right after the LA riots, it's kind of when he started the club. So, I'm sure you guys are getting to see this picture, man. This is the alley where the club started in 1992, and in 2022 we had our 30th anniversary celebration in Carson, California. And when I set that up, I took us back to where it started. And a lot of these guys that heard about this alley, they haven't been there because I hadn't been there for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we took every car we had there to that alley, to that garage, to show everybody, hey, this is where we started.
Wow.
And the thing I wanted to get across to people was like, yeah, this is where we started. So you imagine it's 1992, LA riot times, NWA's coming out, like the whole West Coast gangster rap thing. That's kind of starting to kind of spread across the country. At that same time, Kita is flying out to Kentucky, and he's meeting these little 16, 17, 18-year-old white boys from nowhere, Kentucky. Mm-hmm. How did he say, those guys are just like these guys? They're just like us in Carson. What made him think that? And he's right. I was talking to somebody this weekend, man. If you grew up in Minnesota or North Carolina or Miami or New York or wherever Kita came, he connected you with those guys in Carson, with those guys in San Diego. Like for us in Kentucky, man, San Diego was a chapter we looked up to a lot. That was our, that was like our type that we went towards, was trying to be like the San Diego boys. And Lima, Ohio, which I know is just north of you, Lexington, Kentucky guys always really clicked up with the Lima, Ohio boys. We really had a lot in common.
Mm-hmm.
And those two chapters have always been the two that I probably looked up to the most.
Wow.
And man, how did you meet? You're in nowhere, Kentucky, and you know about some guy in San Diego, and you know about some guy in Lima, Ohio, 5-6 hours away. How does that happen? Because of Kita. Kita's the one that tied us all together, man. And somehow, I don't know what he did. I don't know what was in his mind, man. But he knew how to tie them together, man. And when he passed at his funeral, there were 6,000 people that came.
Oh my gosh!
It was a 3-day event in Sacramento. It was like what you see when you see a rapper's funeral or something on TV. Like it's tremendous wave of people from all these eras of Kita's life coming to tell him goodbye. And while we were there, Pat Law from the Lima chapter, he said to me, shout out to him, man, he's our OG out here. He said, man, he was looking around, he goes, this man did what he was supposed to do when God put him on this earth.
Wow. Amen to that.
And that, that's it, man. So that's the Kita line. So
wow.
Man, I'll talk about Kita all day. So
he was obviously very well loved. That's amazing. I didn't know that many people had attended.
Yeah. Wow. It was about a 3-day event. Some of us were in town for 5 days, but it was
wow.
It was a thing, man, and it was very well loved. And we literally had people. We tried to get cars from all over. We had about a 3 weeks notice, and I think we ended up like 70 USO cars out there.
Okay.
It was
wow.
A lot of people out there, man. So that tells you everything you need to know about Kita.
You said something that caught my ear a little bit there. You said something about like him coming out and connecting you to these people and these people to these people. And at such a young age to feel that connection, that had to have been pretty amazing to know that, like, hey, there's somebody out there that's like me, that's doing what I'm doing. And I think that's a pretty good point, especially for those of you watching home, young folks watching home, is like, that's something that lowriding has always taught me since from a young age, is like, you feel like you belong. You feel like you're a part of something. You feel like at times you're a part of something bigger than you. And it can teach you things in life that, you may not find elsewhere. And So to hear you say that, that's pretty amazing, man. I can't imagine being 17, 18 years old and having someone like you to reach out. That's
Yeah, you know
incredible.
what? Everybody watching this, you all have one. And I say this all the time. If you're around me, you've heard me say it. Everybody has a day I met Kita story. If you met Kita, you know the day. Now, when you met me, you're not going to remember that. You're going to be like this is our first time meeting face to face. You're going to be like, wasn't it at the 24 Lowrider show in Louisville, I think? That's all you're going to remember. But when you met Kita, you knew it was we were at the show. We were next to the taco stand. He was wearing a red hat. And I had my son with me. And he was 5 years old and we had just left soccer practice. Like everybody has that
Wow.
story. And the cool thing about Kita is he remembered that. And in 10 years, when he sees you, he's going to go, hey, how's little Johnny? Is he still playing soccer? And you're like, I talked to this guy for 30 seconds at a show, you know, years ago.
That's
He remembers
amazing.
your name. He remembers everybody. So, but yeah, it was big at that age, man, to be impacted that way. And I said that my time I met Kita story, we had talked on the phone. I'd seen him out there a little bit, but he came out to the Indy show. No, I'm sorry, the Chicago show. And I was in that 83 Fleetwood coupe that I told you earlier. It's going to be my first time Kita was going to get to see a car a mile with a plaque in it. So we're driving on. We worked all night, and then we're going to drive to Chicago for our regional picnic. And I hit a deer and destroyed the front end of my car.
Mm.
We were about an hour from home, so the whole club pulls off on the side of the road, and we tell them, "Go on, you guys go to Chicago." Me and my girlfriend at the time, wife now Becky, said we'll go back home. So we got an hour drive to get back home, and the whole time there, we're like, "Man, I can't miss like Kita's coming out." So we get all the way back to her parents' house, left my wrecked car in her driveway, and her parents wake up in the morning like, "What the hell is this wrecked car in the driveway for?" Hop in her daily, and we drive to Chicago by ourselves. And we see Kita, and he's like, "Oh, Oos, they told me that you hit a deer, man. It sucks, man. You'll be all right. You'll come back better." Cool. Have this conversation. It's the only time we talk all weekend because I'm young and I'm off in the cut in the corner watching. First time I'd ever been that far out of state. Um, the next year, we had all went and bought big body Cadillacs, and this is before Next Friday came out. This was like in the late '90s, but people weren't doing big bodies then.
Mm-hmm.
So we had three of them in our chapter.
Okay.
Billy Hobbs had the first one, and then me and Jason Johnson both bought them. And so we roll into the car wash where we're meeting to go to the show, the Indy show that year. Well, Kita comes walking out, and he does this, and he goes, "Oh shit, Oos!" I hope I can cuss on here.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Oh shit, Oos! Fuck that reindeer, Oos! This is a bad motherfucker. And it was just a big body with wheels and hydraulics. It wasn't really that special, but he made me feel like a celebrity.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how I thought about him. So I'm thinking this guy's not even going to remember me, but I want to show him this car. Well, man, he remembered that I hit a deer. Like he remembered the whole story, and I'm like, dude, we only talked for 5 minutes, But so that was the thing with him. That's my day I met Kita story. Is that's the impact of that's my impactful early Kita story is that one.
Okay.
And if it wasn't for that, man, I don't know if I'd still be doing this or not. Like him walking out there and doing that's what made me want to stick with it. Because that same show, man, there was where I hit the deer. There were certain people that I ran into that didn't make me feel welcome. And I went back home and I told Billy, I was like, man, that sucked the way those people treated me. And so from that point on, I wanted to make sure that I tried my best to try to make people feel the way Kita felt.
Mm-hmm.
Kita made me feel rather, instead of the way these other guys made me feel that I didn't really matter. But this guy thinks, he made me feel like I was important. And knowing Kita as I got older, he was doing that because he knew the impact it would have on me.
Wow.
So,
that's pretty incredible, man.
so yeah.
Wow. Jeff, do you have a favorite era of lowriding? Would it be the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, or now?
Oh, absolutely, man. The '90s are definitely where I'm stuck.
The 90s?
Yeah, I'm definitely stuck in the '90s, man. I don't like anything past the '90s. So anything new, I'm off of it. So I'm stuck in my '90s ways.
So with that being said, how do you feel about all the '90s stuff that's making a comeback around? Do you see it differently this time, looking at it through, someone who's older and seeing the culture make its way back around again, like with I don't know, just like popular culture, clothing, music. I mean, do you see any resemblance to that at all?
Yeah, I'm really happy about the fact that baggy clothes are coming back in style.
You get some
pretty
Jinkos?
amazing. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. All you people watching at home, if your pants are tight down here around your calves, those are your girls' pants. You're not supposed to wear those. So I'm kind of glad we're past that phase, man. We're back to the '90s baggy clothes, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's definitely my era of, music wise and everything. People say you kind of get stuck in your high school era,
Mm-hmm.
and so I am definitely, so that '92 to '96 is when I was in high school. So to me, those are the 4 peak years in humanity, '92 through '96. So anything after that, then I'm off it. So
I can identify with that.
but yeah, car stuff, man. If you look at a '90s Lowrider magazine, most of the traditional lowriders could be in there today. Things haven't really changed a whole lot.
Right.
We kind of keep doing what we're doing, and some things change here and there. Gold was really big in the early '90s. Now engraving's like the big thing. There's things that kind of change with it, but it's basically kind of the same thing, man. If you had '88 spoke Daytons, 3-fin knockoffs, candy paint, pattern top, you're pretty much doing the same thing. So
Yeah. Would you say that the technology has changed for the better in some ways?
I don't know. I don't know if there's been a whole lot of huge change in technology wise. The hydraulic stuff's a little different. It's still basically the same stuff. Obviously people can hop higher, the pumps are stronger, things of that nature. But it's kind of basically the same stuff, really.
Mm-hmm.
With the new stuff like like airbags and all that kind of stuff, and people putting the halo lights in their Impalas and things like that. Those things that kind of change, and it's not the early '90s stuff. So that's why I say I'm kind of stuck in the '90s.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's bad. It's just different. When we were kids, people probably didn't like what we were doing either. So we're now those old people that. What is this noise you guys call music?
Right.
So
I actually go through that with my son right now. He's
yeah,
14,
man.
and it's like, okay, play your music.
Yeah, when I hear this stuff on the radio, I'm like, what is this trash? What do you call this music? And
Right.
then I remember when I was a kid and people going, oh, rap is crap. And, well, that's not music. And there's no guitars. And I'm like, man, I'm those people. Like, so.
So with that being said, what are some of the challenges you've overcome with building a lowrider yourself after all these years? What are some of those challenges you had to meet?
And probably the most challenging stuff being out here, and I wouldn't even say it's a challenge, just a different lifestyle than the major markets like out on the West Coast, and even say Chicago, Detroit, Miami, like the bigger cities, is where we're from. There really weren't any shops.
Mm-hmm.
Like here in Louisville, obviously we have CCE, Hijacker, Style and Performance. We had those shops. Those are early '90s shops though, and I'm from 2 hours to the east. Stanley Staton's out there, the hillbilly hopping.
Get ready for a big one right here, guys. All right, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. It's here, guys. It's here. Man, look at that.
He wasn't really necessarily a shop where you would run through cars for you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you wanted to do anything in lowriding where we're from, you learned how to do it. So the only thing I don't do is paint. Like I can paint parts, but I don't paint cars. But anything else, man, it's like I want to do a stereo, so I better learn how to do stereos. I want to have hydraulics, so I better learn how to do hydraulics.
Mm-hmm.
I want to upholster my trunk, I better learn how to do it. And if you didn't do it, your friend did, and you guys traded work.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a challenge out here. I remember when we first started going out west a lot, the guys in Cali would talk about they dropped their Regal off on Tuesday and picked it up on Thursday with chrome undercarriage. And being like, man, we take 6 months to get our control arms done because we got to find somebody to wrap them. We got to ship them somewhere and hope they get chrome plated right and get it back. And this guy, I can't remember who exactly it was, but it was a guy from our San Diego chapter was talking about they could just drop their car off before work and pick it up in a couple of days and had hydraulics on it. And that just wasn't our thing. So we learned a lot of that stuff by ourselves. I think that's a big challenge out where we're at. So
yeah, you reminded me of something. I like to, I've got a bunch of stuff from the '90s and early 2000s, like catalogs from companies like CCE and Showtime. And anytime I went to like a Carl Casper or a Cruise Fest Nationals or whatever, if there was a vendor, I would snag a catalog.
Sure, yeah.
And over the years, I've rediscovered some of that stuff in old boxes. And I was looking at some of them recently. I think it was at Showtime. And the first thing I noticed is there's no web address.
Oh, yeah.
There's a phone number. And one of the catalogs didn't even have an area code.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm thinking, man, things have come a long way in that regard because
tremendously, yeah.
Yeah, because now stuff is more readily available and there's guys out there who can do things and you don't have to go through your brother's friend's uncle's cousin who can do it. It's like,
exactly.
Hey, I know a guy.
Yeah.
You know?
And that, something that people loved or hated it was lay it low. Lay it low made the world very small for lowriders, and it made you could become really good friends with somebody from California that you never met just through the internet. And then in Las Vegas, when you would meet up, you're like, "Hey, are you, ABC Rider? Oh yeah, what's up, man?" And you guys have been talking for 2 or 3 years on the internet, and it was early for that. Like that was kind of weird that people would actually talk on the internet, and get to know each other, but also a lot of secrets and tools and tricks and all kinds of stuff were on there. And so if I did something in California and I put it on there, now everybody in the nation can learn about it. And so that really opened up the knowledge base. It also let a lot of myths get started that aren't really true. I always say they're lay it low riders because they'll say, well, if you do this, you have to do that. And it's 100% wrong, but it's became like the gospel that people think you have to do it. And it's like, well, that guy that said that on Lay It Low, he sells that product. So of course he says you have to have it. So there was a little bit of that went on, but it made the world so much smaller. And even today, people all the time will say, how do you do this? I get texts a lot. I need to know how to do this. I'll Google it, and then after I Google the question, type "lay it low," and it takes you to Lay It Low, and you see all the forums and all the topics that show it, and then I'll send them back like a screenshot of the page, and I go, "Did you get that on Lay It Low?" Guys, it's still there. Just Google it. All the info's out there. So all that info kind of lives on. There's so much just wealth of knowledge there that that really got spread out to everybody, man. And now with YouTube, like what you're doing, that's what I told you when I first met you. What you're doing, man, is opening up those doors for other people that can look at what you're doing at home in your regular garage. You don't have, a CNC router. Right. You don't have some big machine shop. You don't have $10 million worth of tools sitting there. You're just a regular guy that's just doing stuff in his garage. So why can't you do it? And seeing that really helps. So that's all you have to do. That's how you replace a floor pan. It really helps out, man. You Cadillac Dan, shout out to him. Max from the Chop. All the stuff you guys are putting out there. Other one is Lone Star Lowe's. Kenny down in Texas, man. His channel's amazing. And I've talked to him quite a bit over the years. We met on Lay It Low. And he will show you how to do things that before we thought, oh, you can't do that unless you take it to a shop. So all of you guys fill these little niche markets. You guys almost kind of take the place of Lay It Low. Like the new Lay It Low is YouTube.
I never even thought about it like that. You're 100% right because wow. That puts things in a whole new perspective, really.
It's not just low riding. There's all kinds of automotive stuff. I know some of you guys watch all these shows like Puddin's Fab Shop, Vice Grip Garage. Those type of they have huge followings, man, hundreds of thousands of followers, and you learn stuff by watching these guys, and you realize, man, the guy Jacob that does Puddin's Fab Shop, he's not Chip Foose or Boyd Connington. He's just some regular guy.
Right.
I mean, he can show you how to do stuff.
You know what? That's very true because I took my son to the Hot Rod Power Tour when it stopped in Dayton 2 years ago, and I got to meet Derek from Vice Grip.
Yeah.
And he was in his caddy, the Betty White Cadillac. Yeah. He had his family. And you couldn't talk about a more humble person. He was just elated to meet every one of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a normal guy. But that I think that's one of the things that makes a guy like him so successful is like he's relatable. I find this truck, I find this car, I got to put a battery in it, I got to make sure it's got oil, air in the tires, and then maybe I can drive it home. That's pretty.
Yeah, and there's no reason, like, we're not doing that.
Right.
Like, Puddin's Fab Shop, Vice Grip Garage, I'm not building any of those cars. That's not my style. I watch them because they're cool guys and I like what they're doing. Why can't we do that with low riding? Well, you're doing it. Dan's doing it. Kitty's doing it. Like, we're we're doing that by putting that stuff out, man. And some kid is flipping through YouTube right now, and he's going to run across your channel, and it's going to make him a lowrider for life.
Wow.
And Kita did that for us. Back then, before all this stuff, before all social media, Kita used to bring us pumps and dumps.
Okay.
Long before Cali swinging or any of that stuff, man. He get with Young Hog, he would get 10 videos, he'd ship them out to us. And a lot of our meetings were watching pumps and dumps.
Wow.
And so you Big Rat, Gangster, Punchy, a lot of those guys taught us how to low ride. They're in Watts, Compton, wherever they're from, doing their thing. And there's some white boys in Kentucky watching you guys on the video, just so y'all know. So we talk about people potato chipping and stuff. Like, although a lot of that stuff came from our videos, man. Those videos became Lay It Low, became YouTube, became whatever's next. It's all a progression, man. That's how it gets worldwide. So,
wow, that's very well said. So when it comes to like being in your personal car or cruising with your club or whatever it is that you decide to do that day, do you prefer a picnic, the show, or the street better?
the streets, 100%.
100% street.
Like to me, cruising is what it's about. And everybody likes different stuff. I like it all.
Mm-hmm.
I love shows. I know a lot of guys out here, especially in the Midwest, don't really like shows. They love picnics. That seems to be the consensus out here. Everybody loves picnics. Mm-hmm. And picnics are awesome, man. Shout out to everybody's been putting picnics on the last 20 years. West Side Lowriders, their picnics been going on for since I've been going on. Like they do it every year. Awesome event. Those dudes got a good picnic. The Hop Spot, awesome picnic. I know Dedication's doing picnics now. Mm-hmm. Of course, Lima, Ohio, Pat and them do their picnic every single August. I think it's the 17th this year. That's what's kept the lowriding alive in the Midwest is picnics. So I know that's what people love. We get our cars to the park, we park them, we go hang out. Mm-hmm. The cars are almost a secondary thought. So I know a lot of guys love it, but for me, it's cruising because I like to drive by a group of people that don't even know what a lowrider is and have them go, hey, look. That's what I like, man. Seeing the public's reaction to it. So, I think it probably stems from Brian taking me to the mall and all these people that didn't know anything about it. That's probably where it comes from. But also, man, I like to get in the car, turn your music on, hit your switches. Like, to me, low riding is hitting switches. If you just raise your car up, drive where you're going, and lay it back down, you might as well have a hot rod. Like, why you got a low rider?
Right.
You're supposed to hit those switches, man.
Right.
So if you don't charge your batteries every week, you ain't hitting them enough.
Like, you hear that?
Yeah. That's what low riding is to me. I can't be hitting my switches at the show or at the picnic. So I like cruising. Mm-hmm. But I mean, they all have their place, man. They're everybody's different, man. Everybody likes what everybody likes. So
yeah, that's cool, man. I couldn't agree with you more. That's the best time ever I've ever had with a lowrider cruising with my buddies, man.
Yeah.
And I love that stuff. Okay, so I've got a picture here of your Cadillac, your car that you built. Can you tell me about this picture here and what this is?
So this picture is 2022, the Midwest Lowrider Gala. That's an event that Bob Raymer puts on it's almost like adult prom. It's around Christmas time. Everybody gets dressed up, comes down, we eat. He gives out some awards. It's just another way to fellowship. That year, he decided he wanted to have two cars in there as kind of like centerpieces off, up front by the stage. So he brought in me and Woozley's 58.
Oh yeah,
the blue 58. So those two cars are actually on the T-shirt for the show. Those two cars are put on there because they're both kind of local cars that were built.
Shout out Jason.
Absolutely, man. Doing it. Nobody really saw 58 swinging like that until he did that. So big shout out to him. Both of our cars are up there. Both of them have been built in garages. Mm-hmm. People did that. Build both of those cars completely. They weren't cars that went around to a bunch of shops. Now my car, shout out to Ed from Individuals in St. Louis, Ed Settersburg. He painted it before I even got the car as a project that was completely taken apart. He was there, so he got to take pictures of the car with me. And then I had the interior stitched somewhere else. Sue, that you've actually seen on Gas Monkey Garage, she stitched the interior. The rest of the car, though, man, I built everything by hand and did everything.
Wow.
Pinky actually wrapped the frame on it.
Okay.
But yeah, everything else, man, is kind of me and a couple of club brothers got together and we'll do a few things here and there with me. So yeah, it was cool though to have two kind of garage built cars from Kentucky that were in the Gala, and then now a couple years later, they're on the T-shirts for the show and on the trophies and on the posters and stuff. So it's kind of cool to see that come out. And that's what I was talking about earlier. With if you wanted to build a car around here, you built it.
Mm-hmm.
When people talk about built not bought,
right?
They took their car to a bunch of shops. You didn't build it. Those guys built it. Like these cars are about as built as you can get. And I don't even consider that I built things. I didn't paint it. You know, I didn't stitch the interior. Did a lot of work on it, but it's cool to see that a lot of this is that DIY mentality that we have out here. And you know, to get some cars, they're nice. You know, the Cav's my dream car. I've been looking for one since I was 18, and I got it when I was 40. So
now, for those of you at home who see the picture of the Caddy here, what kind of Cadillac is this again?
Well, this is a Cadillac Le Cabriolet.
Le Cabriolet.
Cadillac made them from 78 to 82.
Okay.
They're coach built convertibles, which means that they got sent from the Cadillac factory to a coach builder. And coach builders build limos, hearses, ambulances. You know, they build all kinds of different stuff. Those conversion vans you see that are all decked out, that's a coach builder.
Okay.
They take a factory car and they modify it.
Okay.
Well, during that time period, man, the DOT made it almost impossible to make convertibles in America because of crash tests. So Cadillac's way around that was you bought a Coupe de Ville, they sent it to a coach builder and got it turned into a convertible. There was 4 coach builders. The most popular one, Hess and Eisenhart, they made the Le Cab. There's 3 others, and this one kind of, for some reason, it clicked with the lowrider community. And man, when I was young, there was a Rodney O and Joe Cooley video called "Humps for the Boulevard."
For the jump for the boulevard, we bring that back up a funky beat made just for the cars. It don't matter if you sound.
And they were riding around in D's white Le Cab from Individuals. Shout out to him for starting this whole thing. It was 90'd out in 89.
Wow.
He had a 90 kit on in 89. So that video made me want one of these cars.
Okay.
And
wow.
When I'm 40, so 6 years ago, what was that? 18. I finally got one.
Wow.
So, but we don't really know how many were made in a year. The number I see thrown around the most is 100 to 150 a year. So there's only about 500 to 700 made ever.
Wow. I didn't realize it was that few.
Yeah, and there wasn't any record. The records on those are Hess and Eisenhart built 3,000 cars this year. How many were hearses? How many were limos? How many were what?
Okay.
They didn't really keep good records. You see a couple of things floating around the internet. They're pretty rare. There's definitely not more than 200.
Okay.
That would be a very high estimate. So it's just, I still have never seen one in the wild. I got that one from a guy that I took it apart to try to build a lowrider and couldn't finish it. So,
yeah, I gotta say yours is the only one that I've ever seen in person.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah, there's a lot in the lowriding community that have them. Out west, there's quite a few guys they hang on to them. They've had them for quite a while. They're well-known cars that have been around, but there's not a whole lot of new Le Cabs breaking out. I know OG Hyro, the Cadillac King, he's broke one out recently.
Okay.
But there's not a lot of them that are kind of, once you get them, you stick with them.
So with that being said, this might be kind of a loaded question, but is that your favorite car?
Oh yeah, hands down. Yeah, there's no question.
Any car in the world, it's that one?
Absolutely. Yeah, look, I'm not a big exotic guy, so like that doesn't do anything for me. Lamborghinis, Ferraris, all that stuff, I don't care about them even a little bit. Like if one drives by, I don't look. Like I don't care. Impala wise, I'd say probably a 59 is my favorite Impala. But if somebody wanted to trade me like a fully done 59, absolutely not.
Wow.
It's not even up for discussion. Like, no, I'd rather have a Le Cab any day. And there's nothing against 59s. Just to me, that's my dream car.
I understand that.
So,
well, it's a beautiful car, man. Well done.
Thank you, man.
Very
Appreciate
nice.
it.
Very, very nice. Okay. So with that being said, I've got one last final question for you. This is a bonus question.
Okay.
Is Max from the Chop as cool as he thinks he is?
Absolutely not. No, not even close. Not even close.
Shout out to you, Max.
Now, the thing about Max is one of those guys that I don't know that I've ever met anybody anything bad to say about Max. Like he really is. He's an awesome, awesome guy. I know he's going to be in here. I think he's getting here like at 4 o'clock in the morning to be down here to hang out with us. Man, I've been knowing that guy for probably 30 years. I met him early on. He's a really, really good dude, man. One of those guys that do anything for anybody. Always positive. Always got a smile on his face, no matter what. You know, he's a really, really good guy. Nobody can actually say anything bad about Max around me. So he's a good dude, man. So
Yeah, he's been a great friend to me. I've only known him for maybe going on 2 years now, but I feel like I've known him my whole life. And
yeah, that's something with Max. Everybody feels that way with him, man.
he's been a huge help for me in the channel on my car. And man, it's like kind of similar situation where you got people calling you at 2 a.m. There's been times I've called him, be like, "Hey, bro, I'm laying under the car. How do I put this in? You know, on bolt this rear end in or whatever." And
Yeah.
he's almost always there. And that's
Always. If he's not, he'll get to you as soon as he can.
right.
That's just how Max is, man. Now Max is, however, holding my car hostage. He's got a '60 Impala that belongs to me. He knows it belongs to me,
Ooh.
but he's hanging on to it for whatever reason. He won't just pass it on down. So Max, when you see this, I need my '60, brother.
You heard him. That's awesome. Okay, well, so that's going to wrap up our interview for the channel. Jeff, thank you so much, brother.
Absolutely, man.
I appreciate you very much.
Absolutely.
And as always, I appreciate each and every one of you for viewing the channel and watching today's very special episode with my friend Jeff Hurt. Stay tuned for more episodes coming up in the future. We got some future interviews scheduled, and I look forward to showing you those very soon. So until next time, take care, God bless, and I'll see you on the next episode of Gem City Welding.